Hello again, this is Moobs with another WWE video. However, this one's a very special one. This one's celebrating 25 years of The Undertaker, the Deadman, Big Evil, whatever you want to call him, the guy's a legend. I don't think WWE would be where it is today if it wasn't for this man. Other people involved, I agree, but this man was always there. He came from WCW. He was loyal to Vince. He stayed loyal to Vince. He probably had offers on the tables from elsewhere, but at the end of the day, the guy stayed. So, The Undertaker, Mark Calloway. Hello. Thank you. We salute you, sir. Everybody within the WWE salutes you for being you. So I remember his first ever match. He was sort of debuted twice because I remember the match at Survivor Series with Ted DiBiase against the Hart Foundation, Coco Beware, and who's the Dusty as well. I remember that there was always a build-up of who and all this lot. And then obviously DiBiase walked into the ring and announced him, and he was known as The Undertaker. Well, about a week to 2 weeks before he debuted on WWF Superstars, and he was called Kane The Undertaker. They kind of quickly dropped that pretty quickly. I remember when he first walked out, and Roddy Piper, God bless him, and Gorilla Monsoon, God bless him as well, was doing the commentary, and they were like, wow, look at this guy, and Piper was like, oh my God, look at him, and all this other stuff, and they really went to town on like bigging him up, making him look, huge, which, they had to do because he was a big guy. He was good at what he did. He had the ginger hair in the old Undertaker outfit with a ginger beard, but he had all the brown stuff under his eyes, and he looked really awesome. And for those who don't know, his original manager was actually Brother Love, who had his own show and everything. But I think it was pretty much straight away after he debuted that they did the Brother Love show, or I can never remember what that was called. But anyway, the Brother Love show, a bit like Piper's Pit, a bit like Biz TV and things like that. They did the Brother Love show, and they basically did an exchange over with Paul Bearer. I always remember, I think it was either Gorilla Monsoon or Jim Ross. Paul Bearer stood there doing all this, with the urn, and they was like, and Brother Love's like, would you tell us your name? And he's like, Paul Bearer. And I'm sure it was Jim Ross that went, oh my God. Which, JR's JR. I'm positive it was Jim Ross. I'm going to have to look into that, but I'm positive it was Jim Ross. And then they kind of kicked on from there. I mean, they had constant jobber matches with Undertaker. They always had the young lads in there who was always going to be jobbers for him. And then they did the whole, again, for them who don't know, whenever Undertaker used to win, he used to put his downed opponents, once he pinned them, with a tombstone in body bags. And then, that was kind of how they did it. And they went like that for a while, and then they put him in the title scene, against Hogan, in which Taker won, and I believe it was with Flair's help. And then Jack Tunney, who was the president at the time, reordered the match be replayed again, because at that time, if I remember correctly, now go and check your wiki pages on this. If I remember correctly, when Taker beat Hogan, at that point, he was the youngest ever WWF champion. And I don't know when it was broken either. I don't think... we'll have to look into this one, but I'm sure at that point he was the youngest WWF champion. And like I say, Tunney ordered a rematch, and then Hogan won it back. But at that point, Hogan was already going. He was pretty much on his way to WCW, I believe, at that point. And Flair had obviously come in. I remember Flair coming in with the world title around his waist, and that was a big kick in the balls for WCW. But Taker lost by some sort of screw job, and Jack Tunney had ordered that the match was null and void. They stripped Hogan of the title, and then they did the whole tournament ready for Mania, in which... No, he won it at the Royal Rumble. That was right. Flair won it at the Rumble, and then he fought Savage at Mania. So yeah, it was the Undertaker had a big part to play in that. And then I think one of the earliest memorable matches for me was at the point Taker, because he was always a face up until a certain point, and then And I never remember what happened, but he turned face and he fought Yokozuna at Royal Rumble. Now, this is when you kind of started seeing a different side of of Undertaker. At this point, he was, the Undertaker who was taking away dead bodies. It was the Royal Rumble in which there was the big casket match, and they did the whole big, extra deep, extra wide, ready for Yokozuna. And it ended up being that they got pretty much all the heels, including Jeff Jarrett and people like that, out of the locker room, and did a real job on Taker. Ended up putting him in the casket and then pushing him away. And then the next thing, all the lights go out and all smoke starts coming out from out the casket. So if you're old enough to remember this, you'll be going, yeah, I remember that. And then Taker come up on the screen, and then he like disappeared out of the screen. And he was like never to be seen for God knows how long. And Ted DiBiase brought him back for the Taker versus Taker match at SummerSlam. But that was the real time you really started seeing this powerful Undertaker with regards to stuff that you see with regards to lightning and things like that. But that was really, that was quite new at that point. And now they did it really, really well. We will get onto the WrestleMania stuff later. I'm going to talk about the whole WrestleMania stuff later. But needless to say, he came back from the... I mean, he probably must have had time off for some reason off camera, but he came back for a little while. So should I say, he took some time off for a little, and then kind of came back better than ever. There's been so many sides to Undertaker over the years. There was, the original, the Kane, the Undertaker, the original after that. Then there was the Lord of Darkness, which, most of that was the whole... it was basically fighting. I'm pretty sure it's safe to say he was a face at the time, because obviously he came back and fought the fake Undertaker, and I believe he feuded with Ted DiBiase at the time, and it kind of he built himself from there. He took on Mick Foley, Mankind. He had good matches, and he had top matches with top names like Diesel and Bret Hart and things like that. I mean, some of the stuff with Diesel or Kevin Nash was pretty good, to be fair. To say there were two big guys who wasn't that mobile, they was pretty good. And then obviously people started disappearing to like WCW, and Vince obviously knew that he got a guy who was loyal to him, so he gave Taker probably some really good matches with regards, really good stories. And then obviously he added to it by bringing Kane in, with Paul Bearer. The storyline with Kane was, I'm not going to fight you and all that, but eventually, fought him, and then it kind of went from there, because the whole Taker and Kane, for me, spurred Taker on that little bit more. That's when they obviously joined up. They joined I've nearly said the Authority. They joined like Vince's army. They became, the Ministry and the Ministry of Darkness, and then the Corporate Ministry. Taker and Kane was the whole reason how The Rock became world champion, because they both pinned Stone Cold during the Austin McMahon feud. They both pinned him at the same time, and nobody could decipher who was WWF champion at the time. So they did the tournament, and that spurred on the Rock, who'd gone face. Was a member of the corporation and helped screw Stone Cold, and he walked out, and that gave him his first title. So you look at all the things that, probably 90% of the big things that's ever happened was at some point involved the Undertaker. When Vince took it from the older guys like Hogan and Savage and things like that, and he wanted to bring in a lot of the youth, and WCW was using, this is where the big boys play and things like that. Taker was there. Taker was still young, and Taker, maybe at the time, because I always think Taker's older than what he is, and you don't kind of realise how young he was when he first came in. I believe he was like mid to late 20s at the time, so he's been involved in some serious stuff. And then you also hear stories of Taker was always the go-to guy. Taker was the man respected in the locker room. Taker was the guy that, if you've watched the Stone Cold and Edge and Christian podcast, whenever somebody did something wrong, they got took to court, basically, which was, or wrestler's court or something like that. And Taker was the judge, because Taker was the guy. Taker, you know, he demanded and he deserved respect. And I think a lot of people kind of had their noses pushed out a bit because they probably wanted to be, you know, the guy who could happily go talk to Vince, but it just kind of didn't work for them. So, you know, Taker's Taker. And then, like I say, there was a Ministry of Darkness, which that was obviously to join him up with Vince and to put him in the title scene against like Austin. It kind of, that was the point that we kind of really saw Stephanie, and the sun's going bright outside, so my camera's going really dark. I do apologise. Yeah, we really started seeing things that have really kind of, again, gone on to do bigger and better things. And again, Taker's involved. It's no secret that Taker was involved a lot of what he's been doing. Let me just move my camera 1 second so we can get better picture quality. So yeah, it's no secret. You know, it's no secret that Taker's been involved with all the big stuff. And then in 2000, probably my favourite ever Taker persona, and it really is. And a lot of people actually think it's his worst. Personally, I loved it. I thought it was great. I love the American Badass. I love the fact that he was Taker. He was on a motorbike. He was coming down to Limp Bizkit, who I was a big fan of Limp Bizkit, especially their first album. The way they did it, I thought was absolutely excellent. I loved that whole Undertaker vibe. It was, you know, like a Hell's Angel biker sort of thing, and I thought it was fantastic. Like I say, a lot of people didn't like it. They think it's one of his worst, but I mean, the Big Evil after, I mean, obviously he turned heel at that point, because I remember he took out JR. It was when Vince did the Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club, and he'd got, who did he get? He got Regal, and he got, it was either JR or Trish first, but either way he got JR, and when it came to JR, I believe Stone Cold or somebody got involved and chased someone out the ring, or something had kind of happened. My memory's a bit fuzzy on that one. Something had happened anyway, and JR wasn't, you know, was let off, and then Taker's music kicked in, and he stood in the ring next to JR and said, JR, was you going to kiss that man's ass? And JR was like, hell no. And he was like, well, let me ask you something. Does that mean you're better than me? And JR looks at him, and Taker takes him out, and then obviously forces him, you know, and the story was, I've kissed Vince's ass for years because, you know, it got me to where I wanted to be. So, you know, that was a major, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see a Taker, which you don't tend to see a lot of. You can always see, well, 9 times out of 10, you can see a face turn coming. You struggle to see heel turn coming. But that shocked me that they turned him evil, and, or big evil, should I say, and do that with JR. And then, obviously, after that, it was a case of, let's bring back the old Undertaker. You know, they brought back the DEADMAN from 2004. They started putting him back in title scenes. You know, he was world champion, you know, in 2007. Who, here's one for you. He did not win a Royal Rumble. His first ever Royal Rumble win was 2007. So when you consider all the wins at WrestleMania and all the matches he'd had, he'd never won a Royal Rumble until 2007, which, you know, was kind of unbelievable when you think about it. And then, obviously, he loses a title, as they always do. And he kind of goes, he starts going part-time, doesn't he? We start seeing him at WrestleMania. We start seeing him in amazing matches, defending the streak. I mean, let me get up his Mania list here. Let me just find his Mania list. So we've got, from WrestleMania 7, Jimmy Snuka. 8, Jake Roberts. 9, Giant Gonzalez. That guy was huge. I remember Giant Gonzalez. He came and beat him down. Was it a Rumble? Was it a Rumble that Giant Gonzalez? I think he was El Gigante in WCW, weren't he? I'm sure it was a Rumble. He came and screwed Taker over. Taker obviously won by DQ. King Kong Bundy, Diesel, Psycho Sid, and then his first match with Kane at 14. And at that point, we're talking, you know, a record of 7-0. Big Boss Man. First match with Triple H at 17. Flair at 18. Big Show and A-Train in a handicap match in 19, I believe. Second match with Kane at 20. And then first match with Orton. In fact, I actually thought he fought Orton more than once at Mania. Mark Henry, Batista, Edge. And then, you know, this is the who's who of WWE, of who Taker has beat at Mania. Then you've got the first match with Michaels, and then the year after, the retirement match of Shawn Michaels, who, for all them people who keep chanting one more match, it's never going to happen. Shawn Michaels has openly said he will not have another match because Taker retired him, and out of respect for The Undertaker, he won't do it. And then he had the next 2 years in a row with Triple H, first one being No Old Barred, and obviously the next one being Hell in a Cell with Michaels as referee. CM Punk, which, you know, that was a whole, Punk had the title for that long, lost it to Rock. Rock was then facing Cena at Mania, so Punk fought Taker. And then the match that nobody wants to kind of admit to, Brock Lesnar. Now, I have nothing against Brock Lesnar, and I really don't. I just wish they'd not have ended the streak. You know, I am a nostalgic. I didn't want the streak ended. Now, I have a whole theory, and I've just scratched my head with a nail. I do apologise. I have a whole theory. Now, all these people who say the streak wasn't due to end, it wasn't supposed to happen, Taker, you know, took a knock to the head, so they ended the match early. That's probably true. He did take a knock to the head. It probably did end the match early. However, I've always believed, from stuff I've read and from interviews that Taker have done over the years, Taker knew who was going to end the streak. He pretty much said it in interviews himself. He knew who was going to enter because he'd handpicked him himself, but it was when was the question. Now, Brock Lesnar and Undertaker apparently used to be extremely close when Brock first came in and young. Now, me personally, I think Taker and Brock made a deal back then. Now, when Taker was at the UFC fight and Brock had the beard and everything else, and he was doing the interview and he stopped Brock and said to him, "Are we going to do this?" That was not them two falling out, wanting to have a scrap outside. That was Taker saying to Brock, "It's coming towards the end. Are you ready? I want you to end the streak." Plus, probably Vince wanted Brock back at that point, and he knew if Taker went to him and said to him, "It's time, we're going to end the streak," Brock had come back. So, I don't care what anybody says. For me, it was always planned. It was always going to be. I don't think Vince knew that it was supposed to happen at Mania 30. I think Vince was maybe hoping to do like he did with Triple H and Shawn Michaels and do 2 years. But it was always going to happen. Brock, in my opinion, was handpicked. It was all sorted. Taker had got everything in place. And he was ready. Now, me personally, I'd have ended the streak on a retirement match. And I really would. Still think this year's Mania will be a retirement match with Sting. Either way, whoever he fights, I think it's going to be a Taker retirement match. And Taker will probably retire this year's Mania. I can't see much more. Taker's having a really good run at the minute. You know, we've seen him quite a lot since he's come back. And I think this is his last run up until Mania when he retires, which will be really, really sad. Because for someone like me, who was, 9-year-old when Taker made his debut, and has seen him go from different parts of his career, seen him go through, different things, even in his lifestyle, because you can always tell when something's going off as well, especially with the news and with the internet nowadays. So for me, Taker was always, he's always been there. It's going to be a shame when he retires, and I've got to be honest, I will probably have a tear in my eye. I had a tear in my eye when Hogan finished. I had a tear in my eye when Shawn Michaels finished, so there's probably definitely going to be a tear in the eye. But the other stuff we haven't talked about with Taker is his TV and films. Now, can you name his films before I do? I knew of one, I knew of two, because one is a film, but I didn't really class it as a film. The third one, I didn't have a clue. I had to get Wikipedia up on this. So in 1991, this is the one I knew about, he played Hutch, who in Suburban Commando, it was basically a Hulk Hogan film. It was the same time as No Holds Barred, Mr. Nanny, Suburban Commando, basically anything you can think of. And it was, Hogan was from another planet, had extreme powers and things like that. And he was a bounty hunter looking for Hogan. And if you've never seen it, there's a bit where Taker or Hutch drops down in a lift and he's got a toilet on his head. And Hulk Hogan's laid on the floor. He's all like, and Taker takes off the toilet and looks at him in this really squeaky voice, just goes, "You're a dead man, Ramsey." And Hogan's like, or whatever. I can't remember what Hogan's character was called. And he's like, "No wonder you guys never talk." So if you've not seen Suburban Commando, watch it. It's pretty good. Taker only has one line in it, but he's in the whole movie. He was obviously in the documentary Beyond the Mat, which, you know, kind of don't want to go into. And then apparently, and I did not know this because I've never seen it. So maybe my son knew this and didn't tell me. The Flintstones and WWE Stone Age SmackDown. Never seen it, but he played basically himself. He was a voiceover in it. TV wise, what have we got? Live with Regis and Kathy Lee. Really? Poltergeist: A Legacy. He was in 2 episodes of that. Downtown episode The Con. Celebrity Deathmatch voice episode. Halloween episode 1. Nice. America's Most Wanted role The Undertaker. Jimmy Kimmel Live. And then 2015 Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Never seen that one either. So you know, he's gone around a while. Taker doesn't do much TV appearances from stuff I've always known of him. He doesn't do that many interviews. I'm kind of hoping they might do a Stone Cold podcast with him. But we'll have to see on that one. It'd be nice to know some story. Talk to Taker about his life since he went part-time and then coming back and things like that. I'd love to interview the guy more than anything. I would love to interview the guy. But let's be honest, never going to happen really. But anyway, I'd love to meet him. I'd love to go and have a beer with him, and I'd love to sit down and do a video like this with the Undertaker. Just purely, I'd love some old stories. I read a couple of stories. I read a couple of stories with regards. Check these out. Calloway was once involved in a backstage controversy with Shawn Michaels. Calloway had threatened Michaels that he would beat him up if he didn't put Stone Cold across cleanly in their match at WrestleMania. So basically, Shawn didn't want to put him over cleanly and take it to him and tell him, "You don't do it, I'm just going to kick the shit out of you." And then, where was a really, really funny one with regards to... Here we go. According to Kurt Angle's book, It's True, It's True, Calloway was once involved in a backstage fight with Kurt Angle. On a previous date before the fight, Vince McMahon once jokingly took Angle down and constantly bragged about being the only person in the WWE to take down Angle. A few months later, when both Vince and Angle were on the plane, the latter took McMahon down. For the rest of the duration of the flight, McMahon also constantly tried to take down Angle down in retaliation. However, one of their friendly scuffles woke up Calloway, who was sleeping. Calloway then immediately locked in a chokehold on Angle and managed to choke him out. However, once he realised what was actually going on, he apologised to Angle, and Angle never retaliated since he respected Calloway's loyalty to Vince. So basically, don't piss the Undertaker off while he's asleep. If you ever see him in an airport or anything and he's asleep, don't piss him off, because you're a braver person than me if you do. But I bet there's absolutely loads of stories like that. I'd love to hear some of the stuff that we never get to see and hear. But I bet there's some epic stories with regards to the Undertaker. So anyway, guys, retaliate. Tell me what get involved. Tell me who your favourite Undertaker was, like as in gimmick was. Tell me your best memories of Undertaker. Let's all talk about the hero and the man that may be retiring soon. The network are doing good, showing us a lot on Taker, which is great, and he deserves that. So get involved. Tell me what you think. And as I always say, if you like what you're seeing, if you like this video, then hit that like button, hit subscribe. These are the sort of videos I want to do, as well as the raw stuff. So you're always welcome. The comments box is always there for you guys to use, and you can tweet me. You can ask me stuff. You can ask me anything you want on Twitter, as long as it's not ridiculous, or trollified. Then I'll give you a reply. If you do want to get involved with stuff that you want to talk about on these videos, you can tweet me. I will do a list and we'll do a Q&A one day. But either way. Do you love The Undertaker, and why do you love The Undertaker? Tell me. And make sure you hit that subscribe and like button. So anyway, thank you very much for tuning in. It's 25 years of The Undertaker, and this video is nearly 25 minutes long, so I really couldn't have timed that any better. But thank you for watching. keep watching WWE. Enjoy what you're doing. Enjoy what you're watching, and enjoy the Undertaker. And Taker, thank you. Good night, guys.